In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to install Bookstack, a simple, modern open source wiki that's quickly gaining popularity for its clean interface and ease of use. Whether you're building internal documentation, a personal knowledge base, or a company wiki, Bookstack makes it easy to organize and share information. I'll show you step by step on how to set it up on a Scala hosting cloud server using cPanel, from server configuration to getting your site live. To kick off our training, I want to formally introduce Bookstack. Bookstack is an open source platform for creating, organizing, and sharing documentation through a user-friendly interface. So let's talk about some features of Bookstack. Probably the most notable feature of Bookstack is its easy page editor. Bookstack is a wiki, but you wouldn't really realize it because the page editor feels like you're editing inside of a word processor. Another standout feature of Bookstack is that it carries the theme of books, with shelves, books, and chapters as its organizational structure. The role-based permissions in Bookstack are quite advanced, with the ability to grant role permissions to different content areas. The search feature on Bookstack is excellent. You can search by text or by tag with a lot of different types of filters. Version control is automatic, but you can also set intentional saved versions that allows you to view, compare, and restore old versions of content. Bookstack has a built-in theme editor where you can customize your logo and color scheme. Before we get into the installation demo, we need to go over a couple of different things. The first thing is that we're going to be installing Bookstack via the terminal. The terminal is a text-based interface for running commands on your server. This is a requirement for our installation of Bookstack because of several essential setup steps involving command line tools and scripts. Also, you're not able to install Bookstack on a shared hosting plan. You're going to need advanced level server tools like command line access, PHP tools, web root configuration privileges, and the ability to set permissions on folders and files. In this training, I'm using Scala Hosting's Entry Cloud plan. That's the cheapest plan that's going to unlock these advanced features. If you want to follow along with the video and have all of the terminal commands in front of you so you can just copy and paste them as we go along, then I would suggest going to openappguide.com/bookstack install, where you can download a PDF that has all of those terminal commands that you're going to need in order. If you want to pick up the hosting plan that I'm using in this video so that you can follow exactly all the same steps that I am going through here, then go to openappguide.com/Scala hosting and you can pick up that Entry Cloud plan. I've been using Scala Hosting for over 5 years and I highly recommend them. So please use this affiliate link. This allows us to get a small commission and helps us pay for videos like these. All right, let's get to installing Bookstack. Here we are in Scala Hosting's cPanel. You can see that we have Q the Past domain connected to this account, and I demoed how to do that in a previous video. We're going to need to have that domain connected to this account because I'm going to show you how to set up the SMTP mail for Bookstack as a part of this platform installation. Like we mentioned before, we're going to be installing Bookstack with the SSH terminal, and you can find that down here under the tools section. However, right now, if you click on that, it's not going to allow you to access the terminal, and that's because you need to actually turn on this functionality, not in this dashboard, but in the admin dashboard. So I'm gonna right click on this and open our admin interface in a new window. Now on the left-hand side under account management, there is an option Manage SSH Access. If you click on this, then you're gonna have the ability to turn on SSH for each of your accounts. You can see I've gone ahead and turned this on, but by default, they're all turned off. You can go ahead and turn those on there. There's one more thing that we need to do while we're in the admin section of cPanel, and that is to change the PHP version of the server. We have the ability to change the PHP version of each domain, but that doesn't change the default of the server. And we're going to be installing some tools directly on the server, and so we're going to need the server to have the right PHP version. When this video is recorded, they're using PHP version 8.1, and Bookstack actually needs version 8.2 to be able to function. So we need to update that. To do that, we're going to go over here to server settings and scroll down here. Your PHP version will be listed here. Most likely it'll be at PHP version 8.1, but you need to change it to 8.2 or the latest version that's required to run Bookstack. Go ahead and save your settings there. Now we've completed everything that we need to do in the admin area. So we can go back to our S-Panel dashboard for this account that we have attached for our domain. Before we access our SSH terminal, we're going to go ahead and create a database for Bookstack. It is a wiki, but it still uses a database. And so I'm going to go over here to databases and create a new database and a new user. So here up at the top, there's this big green button. I'm going to create a database and a user. This is going to be Bookstack database there. And this is going to be Bookstack user right there. Okay. And I'm going to put in a password here. By default, this is set to local, and we're going to grant our user full permissions for this database. So let's click submit. And now you can see we have a database right here for Bookstack, and we also have a user. So we're going to be using that information like we've done with WordPress, Joomla, and Moodle for the installation. We're going to need those 3 bits of information: the database, the user, and the user password. Now with that done, let's go up here and access our SSH terminal. So that's going to be down here in Tools and SSH Terminal. Previously, I installed Bookstack on a different account, which was this one right here. And I created some documentation that I could use for this demonstration. Now I'm just going to be copying and pasting some code from that documentation into Terminal. That's really the best way to do this. You don't have to memorize all of the commands. You just need to have a basic idea of what these commands do and copy and paste them into the terminal. So here's the installation of Bookstack that I created, and I created a shelf called Scala Hosting and a book called Bookstack and a page where I'm going over the installation. And these are all the instructions to install Bookstack on a Scala Hosting cloud account. So just as a review, we have gone through and turned on the SSH terminal. We've updated the server settings to PHP 8.2, and we've created a MySQL database. Next is to access the SSH terminal and start putting in our commands. Now, I don't want you to try to copy what you see off the screen because that sounds like a pain. So go over to openappguide.com/bookstack-install, where you can download a PDF of this document that we are following. Also, I'm throwing in the actual Bookstack page so that you can import that into your install of Bookstack so that you have a record of this document. Now, this first command is copying the Bookstack installation files to a directory inside of our S-Panel hosting account. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this right here. And right here in our terminal, I just want to quickly show you, I'm going to type a command ls. The ls command lists all of the directories in our account here for S-Panel. And you can see we have the public HTML folder. We also have the Moodle data folder that is part of the Moodle installation, because on this account we have Moodle, Joomla, and WordPress all installed, and now we're going to be installing Bookstack here on this. So if I wanted to, let's just say, take a look at public HTML, then what I can do is I can type cd, and that's going to take me into a directory, but then I need to specify the directory. So I'm going to say public, but I don't have to finish the full name. I'm just going to press tab, and it's going to autocomplete for me. And if I press return, and then I type ls again, you can see that it's gone into that directory because it lists it right here. But if I type ls again, then you're going to see we have Joomla, Moodle, WordPress, and also DocuWiki that we've installed here. So we have all of our directories. So I'm going to go back up the directory to our root here that we were before. So to do that, I'm going to press CD period and press return, and it's going to take me up one level. And if I press ls again, then you're going to see we're back where we were before. So now that we're at our root, and just to remind you where we're at in this process, I'm going to copy this again right here, and I'm going to paste that into our terminal. Press enter. So that went through to this location here and pulled the latest version of Bookstack, pulled it down to our server. So now if we type in ls, then you're going to see we actually have another folder there named Bookstack. So let's check our instructions on what to do next. You can see it's enter the application directory. That's CD Bookstack. So let's just copy that, paste that there. Now we're in the Bookstack directory there. You can see these are all the Bookstack directory files. Now the next step here is to run Composer. The Composer tool is going to look in the Bookstack directory and find the Composer JSON file to see what PHP dependencies are needed to be installed for Bookstack to run properly. Let's copy this and put it right there and press enter. All right, with all those dependencies installed successfully, we can go to our next step, which is to configure the environment variables. So this command right here, this command is going to take a file that already exists in Bookstack, the .env.example, and copy it and rename it to .env. So let's go ahead and do that. But first, I'm going to type in here ls. I did say the .example.env file existed in this directory already, although when you look through this directory, you can't see it, and that's because it's a hidden file. To look at hidden files within this directory, we're going to type ls-a, and you can see there's that file right there. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this file, and we're going to rename it .env. By pasting that command in there from our documentation. Let's press enter. And if I do this again, ls-a, then you're going to see that file that we just created right there, .env. This env file controls our Bookstack environment, so we're going to need to edit this file and add in our database information and also our SMTP mail information. And that's our next step. If we check our instructions here, we're going to run a command called nano and .env. This is going to edit the file. So let's go ahead and do that. Paste it into here and press enter. Now we can see the contents of this file and we can start making our changes. The first thing that we need to do is change the app URL, and that needs to be at a subdomain of our main domain. So we're calling this bookstack.qthepast.com right there. And the next thing to do here is to add in our database information. Now I'm going to want to make sure that I'm copying and pasting the name of my database and my username, because I don't want to make a typo and go through this whole process and find out that I can't install Bookstack because the database information is wrong. So I'm going to go over here to spanel, open this in a new tab right here, and I'm going to go to MySQL databases. And I'm going to copy this because this is the whole database name. It has the name of the account at the beginning of the database name as a prefix. So let's go ahead and put that in our file right here for the name of our database. Remember the first setting here, localhost. That's always localhost when we're making these installations for our different open source apps on our hosting account. So let's go over here now and copy our Bookstack user. And let's go in here and paste this guy in. Okay. Because I want to make sure that I get my password exactly correct, I'm going to go over here to my S-Panel account and go down to my user. I'm going to say change password. And here I'm going to make it give me a random password here. I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to go over here and just paste it right in there. That way I make sure that I have exactly the right password. The next thing to do is add in our SMTP mail information, and you can find that down here. To find all of this mail information, I'm going to go back into our S-Panel account, and I'm going to access our email accounts right here. And if you click on these three buttons here and say connect devices, this is going to give us a lot of information that we need right here. So the outgoing server, mail.cuethepast.com, the port is going to be 465, and I'm going to copy this username and my password. So let's first copy the outgoing mail server, and we're going to put that right there in localhost. So let's paste that there, and we're going to put 465 right there. And the username is going to be this email right here. So let's copy this and paste that there. And we're also going to do the mail from, the same one right here. Okay. And then just to make sure, again, that I have the correct password, is I'm going to go over here and change the password. And I'm going to copy this password right here. I'm going to change it. Then I'm going to go down here and put it right there in the password. And for the mail encryption, we're going to put TLS. We could also put SSL. They both do the same thing. And we need to do that because we are using port 465, which is an encrypted port. All right, so now that we've made those changes, you can see down here at the bottom of our window that there's a bunch of different commands. The command that we want is Command X, that is going to exit out of this editing application. So if I press that, it's going to ask me if I want to save this file. I'm going to say yes, why, and it's going to ask me which file I want to save to, and I'm going to press enter. If you did just want to make sure that you actually saved to the file, you can press the up key. That's going to bring up the last command that you ran. If you press enter, then you can go down and you can see, oh yeah, okay, all of those changes have been saved. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. All right, so with that step done, let's go back to our installation instructions. And you can see the next step that we have here is to set the permissions for these folders that are listed right here: storage, the cache folder, and the uploads folder. We need to actually make those publicly accessible. So to do that, this command right here changes the permissions for the storage, cache, and uploads folder, while this command right here is going to add those three directories to this user group and to make this user the owner and give them privileges. So this says site 12345. That should be replaced with the server user. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's go ahead and copy both of these together. And I'm going to paste those right there. So you can see right here in the command line, this site 19804. This is actually the server user and also the user group. So we're going to replace that with our 12345. So let's go back here and change that. With that done, let's press enter. All right, those permissions have been changed. We're almost done. We just have a couple more things that we need to do. So let's go back to our instructions again, and we are going to generate an application key. So just to explain what this is, within our .env file, there is a place where there's an application key. So if I go up here and cycle through our commands here by pressing the up key, I'm going to go and look at this env file. You can see right here, there is a app key right there, and it says some random string. But it's not just some random string, it has to be properly formatted. So to populate this key, I need to run a tool, and that's what you can see here in our installation instructions. That's this PHP generate key tool. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to paste this in there. And if I press enter, it's going to go through and say, are you sure you want to do this? If I arrow over to the left and say yes, then it's going to say an application key was created successfully. And so now if I go into my file, then you can see that this application key has been populated in this place, and it has the proper formatting. So as of right now, we've set up our database and we've put in our informations in the .env file, but there's nothing in the database. There's no tables created for the database. So what we need to do on this next step is to run the database migrations, which means to create all of the tables inside of the database and have all of that pre-filled with the default information. So let's go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to paste it into here. I'm going to press enter. And there again, I'm going to say, yes, I am sure I want to do this. And it's going to go through and create those tables and copy over that default data. So that's our last step that we need to take in the terminal. So let's go back over to our S-Panel dashboard. And before we do our last step, I do want to just show you what the database looks like for Bookstack. So if I go over here to a tool called PHP My Admin and I click on that, this is going to show me all of the databases here on the left. So if I click on Bookstack, then you can see all of these tables that have been created when we ran that migrate tool. If you did just want to poke around inside of these tables, then you can click here. Right now, they're all empty, presumably because we don't have any information in them. But when you start creating your pages and users, then these tables are going to all fill up. All right, so the last step here you can see at the very bottom is to make sure that our subdomain is going to be pointing to the correct directory. So you can see here it's home and then the site name and then Bookstack in public. So other applications are going to be sitting inside the public HTML folder. Bookstack is different. It goes up one level and it has its own public folder that you need to point your domain to. Most likely you're going to want to put your documentation platform on a subdomain, so that's what I'm going to do. I have Joomla as my main site, and that is on the cuethepast.com, and so this is going to be on Bookstack at cuethepast.com. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to S-Panel and go down here to subdomains. I'm going to create a new subdomain here, and it is going to be Bookstack at cuethepast.com. And now we need to go to the correct folder. So you can see the home site. That's the same thing that we had here in our documentation. So we just need to find this location right there. So let's go browse and go back. So it's there in Bookstack. And then there's the public folder right there. So let's go ahead and add this as a domain. So you can see here from all of our subdomains for WordPress, Moodle, and DocuWiki, they're all in the public HTML folder. Bookstack, though, is one level up in its own folder, and it has its own public folder that it's getting pointed to. So one more thing I just want to check really quickly before we go to this URL. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to double check the PHP version. So if I go down to the PHP version manager, and just make sure that we have the correct PHP version. So we've got Bookstack Cue the Past. So it looks like it's defaulted it back to 8.1. That's not correct. It's not going to run if it has 8.1. So just go over here and say change PHP version, and we're going to do that 8.2 and click change. All right, so now that it's changed, should be able to paste in the URL, and that should give us Bookstack, and there we go. During this installation process, we never actually set up a username and password for the admin. The way that Bookstack handles that is they have a default admin and password. So that is admin@admin.com, and if you type in password, then this will give you access to the admin account on Bookstack. And because you're using a default username and password for the admin, you definitely need to come up here and go to My Account and change your email and also change your password. All right, we've installed Bookstack. This installation was a little bit different than other applications because we needed to install through the terminal. The terminal might have been new to you, but I think following this video and downloading the PDF guide is a really great introduction to working in a Linux terminal. It was a little bit of work, but I think really worth it because Bookstack is a fantastic application that I think you're going to love. In the next video, I'm going to give you a demo of Bookstack's features and tell you how you can import that Bookstack page that you downloaded from openappguide.com into your own Bookstack. That way you always have a copy of how to install Bookstack.